Do I buy a resale home that's already been built, or do I go the new construction route? And is it even possible to purchase new construction in this market? There are so many questions that need answering when you're trying to figure out the insignificant question of where the heck am I going to live? No worries, I've got you. Stick around and we'll figure it out together. Okay, so before we jump into the nitty-gritty, do yourself and me a favor and click the subscribe button below. I'm going to be answering all the questions that so many of you have on all things real estate. I don't do fancy or phony. I do real talk with real people, mostly about real estate. So if you're watching this video, there's a good chance that you're already in the process of considering building a new home. Disclaimer. As a part of the whole real talk thing, I am admittedly not a big fan of confirmation bias. I believe that if you are going to make the most informed, educated decision, then you have to look at things from all the different angles, the positives, the negatives, and everything in between. So we're going to start with the pros, but don't worry, I will also leave you with the cons. And if you stick around to the end, I'll drop a bonus for you. All right, let's get started. First item to go in the pro column is that new house smell. This goes beyond just enjoying the simple fact that no one has lived in the house prior to you. When a house is brand new, you don't have to worry about any hidden surprises or band-aids that previous homeowners may have put over issues that then become your issue after you move in. For example, let's say a homeowner knows that the sink gets clogged, it backs up bad. So they take chemical solution, they pour it down the drain, and that clears it out for a month, and then they go through this process over and over and over again. But obviously, it keeps coming back, so there is an underlying issue here, right? Maybe dude is like shaving his big hairy chest in the sink, and that keeps clogging up the sink. Or maybe there's something more sinister lurking further into the plumbing, and that's why it keeps coming back. So they pour their chemical solution down the sink, and then you have your home inspection the next week. Well, everything's flowing fine. So the home inspector has done their job, gives you the stamp of approval, and now when you move in, 2 weeks later, you have to deal with the clogged sink. That is something you don't really have to deal with new construction. While there are certainly issues that can pop up, at least it's not a band-aid that a previous homeowner has put over an issue. I'd say that part is a pro. All right, number 2 item to go into the pro list, everything is brand spanking new. Your roof, your heat pump, your water heater, everything's brand new. So while you're going to pay a little bit more for your new construction house, you aren't likely to have to come out of pocket anytime soon after moving in. So your largest expense for repair and maintenance is going to be when you have to replace a roof. A roof is going to be anywhere from 25 to 50 plus years, depending on the shingle and the craftsmanship that was used when they placed the roof. So the maintenance expenses are much lower than the replacement expenses. And aside from that, most of the time builders offer a pretty good warranty that's going to cover all of those things in between for at least a year or so. All right, item number 3 going on the pro list. For the sake of this list, let's assume that you're going with a custom build or a semi-custom as opposed to a track builder or a spec home. In that case, you get to customize the house based on your unique likes, dislikes, and needs. And people get really creative with these customizations. One of my favorites is when people do a dog bathing station. I don't know about you, but I have a 25-pound puppy that is going to very quickly be an 80 to 100-pound puppy. And it would be lovely for me to not have to haul his big butt and put him in my bathtub in order to bathe him. But alas, I missed the boat on that one. Another customization that makes a big difference is when you're taking into account accessibility. Maybe you need no stairs or wider door frames to accommodate a wheelchair. It is already hard enough out there to find a house that meets your family's needs on the resale market because inventory is so low, and that's nationwide, not just Richmond. So when you add in that now you also need to find a house that meets your needs plus the accessibility so that you or your loved one can comfortably navigate the space, it's next to impossible. But if you can do a custom build, you're able to create a space that works best for you. And that's a major, major pro. All right, we went through the good stuff. Now let's move on to the cons, which are equally as important. First up is the most obvious one. You're going to pay for it in a few different ways. So number 1, on average, you're looking at spending 8 to 10% more than you would on a resale of a comparable house. That was true before the pandemic. and it's still true after. Additionally, you're probably going to need to put down a much larger deposit than you would with a resale. So the reason that builders, especially custom builders, want a large deposit up front is that if you are making all these changes based on your family's unique needs, if something happens and at the end of the day, they're done building this house and you can't purchase it, you can't seal the deal, now they have to find a buyer who also wants the unique customizations that you requested to be put in this house. So by having a larger deposit, it keeps them safe and allows them to recoup some losses if they need to go back and change some things about the house to make it more marketable for the masses. So you're looking at more money out of pocket in that way as well. Number 2, do you have the time to wait for the house to be built? I am not a patient person at all. When I decide I want to do something, it's done like yesterday. But if you're a normal person and you're not like me, maybe waiting the 5 to 10 months that it might take for your house to be built, and that could swing by a month or two either way, maybe it's not a problem for you. But it might be a problem for your lender. When you sign the contract at a 5.5% interest rate, what happens if the interest rates skyrocket? What if they go up a lot before you are able to lock in your interest rate because you have to be within a certain time frame of the house being completed? Are you even going to be able to afford the house anymore if the interest rates go up to, 8.25%? That's a very important question to ask yourself. Additionally, what if you have to sell your current home in order to qualify for the mortgage on this new home? That opens the whole can of worms of, when do we sell our house? Where are we going to live in the gap between our house has sold, we got to get out of here, and our new house is not ready yet? Not only do you need to find somewhere temporary to live, but you have to find somewhere flexible, because I don't know if you know this, but it is incredibly common for new construction to experience delays, like lots of delays. And the last item to go into the cons column is, oftentimes you're going to be limited on your location. If you're building in a neighborhood, you're also likely limited to which builder you're able to use. Most developments have a select number of builders that are approved, and you have to pick from one of them. And if you really love this neighborhood, but you don't love any of the builders, you're kind of stuck. You also may not be able to pick the section that you want your house to be in. If it's a newer community where they haven't opened up all of the sections yet, but you really have to move, you may be limited to a lot that is not really desirable where you were wanting your house to be built. Then if you're wanting to come out to more rural areas, you run into an inventory issue. There's obviously a limited amount of land available to take into account finding the land. Is it going to increase the amount of money that your house is going to cost? Because now you have to factor in clearing the land, well, septic, getting a soil study done, all of that stuff could be deal breakers for you. If you were trying to get back and be in the suburbs, I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's not a lot of raw land just in the middle of the suburbs. Most developers, any land that is currently undeveloped, most developers have already scooped up. So all of those are cons that you really want to take into consideration. So we've got our pros list, we've got our cons list, and there's a million things in between. And you really want to spend some time, write these out, write out the pros, write out the cons, cross-check between the two of them. What are your deal breakers? What are your must-haves? And really check in with this, because what you don't want to do is spend the most money you've ever spent on a home and still not end up with what it is that you want. All right, so you hung in there with me? Now for the bonus information. The most common question that I get when it comes to new construction is, do I need my own real estate agent during this transaction? With very rare exception, that is a resounding yes. The builder or builder rep is looking out for the builder's best interest. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing sinister about that. That's their job. The builder is running a business. They need to protect their interest. You are entering into a business transaction and purchasing this home, a financial transaction. You also need someone looking out for your best interest. For example, how familiar are you with a real estate purchase agreement? Maybe you're a lawyer and you're very familiar with various kinds of contracts. Do you know what to look for to make sure that the benefits that you're supposed to have are written in that contract and they're written in the right place and they're written with the correct measurable terms? Are you fully aware of all of your rights and responsibilities as a buyer? Because certainly we want to make sure that your rights are being exercised, but you also want to make sure that you are abundantly clear about what your responsibilities are so that you don't accidentally mess something up. Also, if you are meeting with a builder and the builder is trying to convince you that you don't need a real estate agent, that's a red flag. Okay, guys, don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss out on any real talk about all things real estate.